Okay, welcome to part 2 of the overstable mids. Uh, don't have everything I want, but there's so many. There's more than I thought out there. So back here at Winnetka Park, beautiful day. Got the Rocky Mountains in the background. Proves that I'm at altitude, right? But yeah, today I'm going to look at the Taco along with the Crux. Both got them in the Neutron version. I believe this is Apex and Aura. And then I also got MVP's other non-overmold overstable mid, the Runway. Should be a lot more beefy. I was going to only include this in my really OS mid reviews, which is like the Justice and the Deflector and stuff. This is pretty close to that, although I threw this one a little bit and it didn't seem that bad, so it also seems appropriate. And it's about the same as what the new balance turned out to be like. I have the balance, but I'm not going to throw it in this. I forgot it. And it's not, since it's not a production mold, I'm not going to really include it. I'll probably do a more in-depth review once with the Crux and the Taco, once that production version of the balance comes out. And then I got some other beaded molds. I've got a Halo Roc3, so we can see what an actual Roc3 throws like comparatively. This is a Halo, should be a little bit more stable. Will be Ranch stamp. This is a Halo Inca, which I am pretty sure it is the same mold. They are nearly identical. Probably similar situation to the Emperor and the Destroyer, where Innova gave them one of the older versions of the mold, perhaps. But I'm pretty sure it is just a Roc3. And then we've got a Champ Rancho Roc3 from USDGC. It should be also fairly similar. Controls, I threw a Hex and a Matrix last time as my control kind of straight mids. I'm going to throw a Big Z Buzz and an ESP Buzz with a little Yoda on it. This should give us a kind of a good stable control. And lastly, we got a couple non-really beaded overstable mids. We've got the Luft Silicon. I had one with these in their A solid. I believe this is their glow, the Y solid, but I'm not sure what the one I had in it, but it was like a swirly marbly. Felt amazing. I lost it, but I managed to get a hold of this one. Really solid overstable mid, and I love their plastic. And then we got the RPM Kotuku, which is labeled as 02, but always felt a little more stable than the numbers. Drew Gibson has kind of bagged this as his overstable mid. He called it the White Heron. I actually had this in the original review, but I only had a baseline, and it had gotten beat in to where I think the bead wore off. It does have like a micro bead on it. It's very similar to the Crux and the Taco, so I think it'll be a good comparison to those. Anyway, let's get out here and throw and see what happens. Okay, we got hole 3. There's actually 5. We're gonna do this. There's 5 holes in this loop, so we're gonna do all 5. I usually just do the 4 because this one's a little shorter than the rest, and it's kind of downhill. It's more of a putter, kind of a upshot, but we're gonna kind of test like some baby flex, try to keep it low so we don't go over the path and have to go manda right of the flagpole there, or the electrical post. So I'll start out with the buzzes. This is a new buzz I found actually in a used bin find. No ink, unthrown. There we go. A little bit better on target, nice and soft. Came out. All right, the Big Z Buzz. You can see it's just gonna hold it the whole time. Doesn't it's all right? Now we got the Halo Roc with the Beaver Ranch stamp. Ooh, a little loftier than more, but I had decent angle on it, and it just slowly kind of fought out. That was nice. Now we'll go with the Champion Rancho Roc. See, it's more closer to the buzz. You can see it fighting out just a little bit, but pretty straight. Now we'll go with the Bonanza, the Halo Inca. There we go. I held it a little bit. Kind of came out. Not bad. All right, now I never haven't thrown these yet, so I don't know how stable they are, but Let's try the taco. Ooh, a lot more stable. That started fighting out almost immediately. And the Aura Crux Aura. Ooh, very similar. Almost the same. So like I said, those are pretty much, I'm pretty positive those are the same discs. And the Kotuku. But see, I pulled over a little bit more on it, but it came out, fought out really nicely and parked solid. And then we got the Luft silicone. Their plastic feels really good. If you've never felt a Luft disc, ooh, very nice. Parked it right there with the Kotuku. Solid. And then what should be the beefiest of the bunch, the Streamline Runway. Yeah, I think I had that more angle than any of the rest, and it just fought out super nicely. The ESP buzz was a little short, but the taco and the Crux kind of were the ones that came off the lift. Like I said, I think I adjusted for the runway. I think it's closer to those taco and Cruxes. The other one's just a touch straighter, but I had them on just a little bit better angle, like the Kotuku, the silicone, and a couple of the Roc clones. About what we expected. Okay, 5. This one's 315. Nice and flat. We got a nice big. We can just kind of pump them out. Slight hyzer to flat. Kind of see how they respond to power and how much fade they'll have at the end. Got the big Z buzz here. I basically usually try to aim almost straight off the T pad, almost at the T sign for the next hole. Yeah. And just dead straight the entire way with the buzz. The ESP buzz. This one seems a little bit more stable than that Z, big Z. That big Z is pretty beat in. Yeah. Just a touch more. Got a little bit better height, but you see it's still pretty straight. Didn't really fade all that much. Here with the Inca. Ooh. A little slip, but man, that came out just right. That was parked. I'm telling you, I'm going to do a review on shoes, and someone just posted on Reddit about shoes. I've got a video coming, but these are not it. I'll tell you that much. All right, Halo Roc. That was probably the best throw. Pretty straight. It did fade a little bit at the end. That's actually long. That's going to be kind of crushed. But that should be a putt, like on the backside of C1. Here is the Champ Rancho Roc. Oh man. Actually slightly hyzer that. That's a little more stable than that actually is. That kind of came out of my hand. Hyzer. That was not really flat enough. The Kotuku. Woo. I also hyzered that just a touch. That's gonna be way left. But that was a pretty good launch. Pretty stable though. That Kotuku's pretty good. Here's the silicone. Try to get these a little flatter. There we go. Aced it. Ooh. A little short, but man, just can't quite tell if that was just had a touch of hyzer out of my hand or if it just got Hyzer that quickly. Maybe a little bit of both. Pretty stable. A touch more than like the Kotuku on the other ones. Pretty close to these. Let's go with the taco. Oh, it's so low. Gosh, but look at it. Get to Hyzer. It's pretty stable. More stable than I thought, honestly. They're actually closer to the proto balance than I expected. All right, here's the Crux. A little bit better air, a little bit flatter, more power. So you can see, ooh, and that little skippy finish, but that's parked. Like, that's solid. It's really solid. The runway. Beef boy. Yeah, it's dummy. That wasn't that great of a throw. But you can see it's really stable. Let's try to get down really quick. Didn't get as much power on that one. Kotuku is way left. We got the inside Roc3, but the silicone, taco, Inca were pretty much parked. Runway just bit early, but the late flare on the Crux got it here. Like I said, the rock came in. It's pretty close to in line with the pin. It just went a little deep. Same with the two buzzes, just too straight. Right? I want, this is the finish that I want. I want this even like flary finish. And even when I throw them bad, like they match the power level a little bit more and just get me closer to the basket to what I want versus something that's all straight. Yeah, 300 downhill. We can do some forehand tests. I'll do the next couple. There's no wind today, so I can do a flex forehand on the next hole. So I'll try to do these pretty flat. Well, actually slight Hyzer. They are mids. I'm going to try to get them as clean as I can. All right, we'll go with the buzzes first. If I can't get a pretty clean forehand on these. Oh, not bad if it was a little higher. Trying to get these smooth on just a touch Hyzers, because I think if I put these buzzes flat, they'll just kind of burn over. Yeah. Kind of a little too wobbly. All right, see if the Crux on the taco can handle it. They're pretty comfortable. They're fairly shallow. I don't really like the way the bead sits into my hand on most of the beaded mids, but see if we can't get something decent with them. Oh gosh, it's definitely stable enough to handle the torque. If I could get a half decent release on it. Let's try the taco. Like I said, you can take the taco and the Crux for, I'm pretty much sure they are the same disc. They're same weight, everything. That's better. Pretty stable, man. Didn't really want to flip that much, but handles the torque well. All right, the Kotuku. There. Pretty solid. Like, it feels comfy for the forehand. I got a pretty good, decent release on it. I'm not throwing these super hard. My arm is pretty sore, and I haven't really been working on the forehand hardly at all. I've been trying to rest my arm a little bit, and I just got off for a really long Christmas trip, so we go the silicone. That's a solid forehand for mid-range for me. Handled it well. Feels very comfortable. Very similar to the Kotuku, maybe just a touch more stable. We got the runway. This is probably, it's interesting because it's got like this kind of harsh bevel on it. So it's almost like a bead, but like really big on it. It's it's an interesting feel, but it's very shallow and flat on top. So always been pretty comfortable in forehand. And just very, very stable and consistent. All right, we'll try to get these rocks. I don't have huge hope for these rocks. They're so deeper and more rounded and a bigger bead than any of these other ones. They're just not very comfortable for me to forehand, but I'll try to get them smooth. Oh, but you see how like they tend to, that came out at the end nicely, but you can see how they tend to like start on Hyzer, and like the wobble and torque really gets them to flip over hard. Whereas some of those other ones are thinner, more stable. They just kind of handle that and stay on their lines better. Yeah, and see that Inca, yeah, they just kind of tend to do that. All right, here's the Halo Roc3. Man, if you forehand a rock, you're either really smooth or really big hands or something. That was pretty good. I got it on a good Hyzer and it flipped up, but pretty straight. But it did recover. But like the other beaded ones, it just kind of has the wobble and the torque, just kind of make it flip harder. This is just 250 uphill. Now, I'd like to test the flex forehand around the bush, but obviously that's just probably not going to work with a lot of these. As you can see on the last test, even on like a kind of a flip up, a lot of them were kind of wobbling and burning over. I could try some of the less stable ones on like almost like a turnover forehand, or I could try them on like a turnover backhand to see how some of these. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with a turnover backhand just because I don't only like maybe the resistor, maybe the Crux and stuff would you ever want to like put much forehand angle on it. We can test those, but I think maybe doing kind of a backhand turnover flex here to see if they come out of it at all. The only problem is I've got this tree kind of right in the angle, but it should work out pretty good because these should hold all the way to the ground. We kind of want to see the ones that will like come out and put us near the pin. Yeah, so that buzz is going to hold it almost all the way to the ground. It did come out, flatten out a little bit. Like I said, I'm throwing slightly uphill, and I'd like to throw turnovers just slightly nose up, depending on the lengths you really want them to kind of burn and hold over, or you're really throwing an overstable disc. But the problem with that, I used to do that, and like if you throw a turnover 2 nose up, they'll just sort of stall and won't really turn at all. Here's the other buzz. But see, even on this kind of nice lofty angle, they're coming out just very, very slightly at the end. But it's nice to have a mid that's stable enough that will kind of come out of that just a touch more aggressively for shot shaping. Like that's good for, you need to go around stuff, don't have like a super good forehand. We got the Halo Roc. That's going to end up right with the other ones. That was a little bit more aggressive angle. And here's the Halo Inca. And that was a little, maybe a less aggressive angle. You see it come out a little bit earlier. Just a little underpowered. But that's kind of the shape I wanted. I just undercommitted after overcommitting a little bit. And here's the Champ Roc. That's really good. Just that subtle flex line, and it just softly came out. That's pretty good. It's just a tiny bit more stable than the buzzes with the Luft silicone. See, I threw that pretty aggressive, and it's came out a little early, but pretty aggressively came out of it. The Kotuku. Yeah, that's really nice. So that was fairly aggressive, and it fights out. Pull hit. All right, now for the Crux. That was pretty aggressive too. A very aggressive angle, and it got all the way back and still got it left. And see, more stable than that Halo Roc3. That was a fairly similar angle. And then the taco. Oh, look at that fight out. Perfect. Oh. The runway? Ooh, that was really aggressive. Annie. But man, you see it fought all the way back and still flared. Similar to what I did with the Crux. But it's nice to have that like stability. Like if you miss the angle, like I pulled over on those a little bit too much, and they're still gonna be really good, right? Whereas something less stable just doesn't, it's just gonna burn over if you go too aggressive. Whereas you still kind of run the risk of the bad angle coming out too early. Whereas it becomes more touchy. Whereas with a more overstable disc on a turnover like this, you can really commit to the power and the angle and not worry nearly as much. Like I said, the silicone, I kind of underpowered it, and it came out, yeah, a little early, but it's like right in circle one, right in line. It's unfortunately behind the tree, but honestly, depending on the hole, like obviously this is the mistake you don't really want on here, but that still gives us a putt, so it's really not that bad. The buzzes on a little straight. That Roc3 got just a bit inside of the, but you can see the other one too that I pulled over really hard on, the Crux and the runway. I mean, they're basically parked. Whereas like that, I got the Champion Roc just perfect, but it takes just a much more precise throw. Whereas like all these overstable ones, they're just a little bit easier. And of course, the Kotuku and silicone. Lots of birdies on that hole. Right back here, hole 5. I'm gonna do the flex forehand on this, just a little more open, a little flatter, and I can actually give it a little bit more air time. So you can kind of flex like a buzz or something, but you almost have to treat it like you're doing a backhand turnover where you go way wide and let it come in. So I'm gonna try a little flex with these, and I'll try to be a little more aggressive depending on how I feel the disc is stable. So not exactly apples to apples, but you can kind of see, like you can already see the stability, and I can tell you, in the review of this. But we're gonna give these kind of a wide flex, see if we can't get it out there. See it fought out a little bit. Just a little too torquey, a little too much angle on that buzz. It is kind of a way to get some forehand distance, but I think you'd normally use more overstable than like a buzz or something. Oh, like a dive. Yeah, and if you torque it or hit the angle wrong, they're just not gonna. This is why you don't really flex a neutral mid. All right, we'll see if the Inca can hold up to it. So we get a little more height, enough time to like come out of the. All right, and we give it enough height to fight out of the flex. You can see the wobble makes it want to dive. Very interesting. Wobble kind of tends to affect the high-speed turn a lot right at the beginning, and torque. I think it's the spin or the air, either of the two, or the shape of it. Try to fight that. That's why those flat, aggressive discs handle it so well. They fight out so much quicker. Whereas these beads, it takes till it gets slowed down, I think, before it has a chance to kind of counteract that that wobble and off-axis torque. Oh, yeah. Yeah, too straight. Not enough air. All right, here's the Kotuku. Kotuku is really a solid disc. Like Drew Gibson liked them. I mean, RPM in general, they have good plastic. They have really good molds. They're just not super well known. Ooh. That was a little bit of a wonky release, but it turned out half decent. Yeah, it's definitely got enough stability. It's kind of in between the stability of like a pyro or something really aggressive like that, or then like these kind of 0.20-ish beaded mids. It's a little bit, I think it has like a micro bead, kind of same with this silicon. Not too deep. Little bit of shoulder, but fairly flat on top. Pretty comfortable. Oh, that was nose up. And that thing's pretty stable. I could actually probably, that silicone I could actually probably pump over on a little bit, which is I think I should be able to do that with these too. Even though they are a micro beaded mid, they're thin and pretty overstable. I think I may be able to go just a little bit more aggressive. Oh, I did the same thing. Just a little nose up. I got the angle I wanted right of the disc, but not the nose. All right, try to correct that with the Crux. There we go. See the Crux and the toggle, I think, and the silicone. Oh, that's like parked. I just 300 with a forehand and a mid. That's like kind of new for me. All right, here's the runway. Runway is even thinner, and just runways, pyros, really good for forehands. They're just really torque resistant and really nice and thin and comfortable for a forehand. That was just a touch nose up, but pretty solid. All right, I got the Champ Rancho. These just do not handle torque, so you just have to be so much smoother and give them so much more height so that their stability comes in at the end when they slow down. Oh God, even though I think I get those angles right, and they just, yeah, I just can't forehand beaded, semi-stable beaded mids. All right, we're in a hole 4. We're just gonna go kind of, it's 280 uphill, but we're just gonna kind of go power Hyzer. Just kind of see how they come back on a Hyzer. All right, buzzes. Parked. Big Z. Oh, a little short. Stalled it just a little bit. All right, Halo Roc3. Yeah, it just starts hyzering a little earlier. Need to get them a little wider. All right, hello, Inca. Pretty solid. They're just not as glidey. Like they just want to get down a little bit more than the buzzes. Buzzes are pretty glidey, man. This one I expect to hold the line, the hyzer, a little bit more like the buzzes. Oh, they're low. That's still pretty good though. All right, the Kotuku. No short. Solid though. All right, Hyzer, or the Taco. Oh, it dives so fast. But look at that flare. Wow. I gotta actually go a little inside but higher because these are gonna dive a little bit more aggressive. Oh yeah. Bark. The cone. Ooh, pretty stable. Should have put that a little bit wider like the Crux and Taco. And then here is the runway. Oh, look at that aggressive dive. Gets to that steeper angle. Yeah, just a little less glidey, a little more of a harsher fade than those Taco, and a little closer. It's closer to this Bobcat. All right. Funsies, I'm going to try these, a few of these overstable ones on some flex forehands, and then we'll do ace runs for fun on the rest of them. Start with the runway. Oh yeah. Maybe too much flex. All right. And the lift silicone. Ooh, a little too much flex. But see, it fought out of it. It didn't like Crux on a flex around the bush. Oh, did I do it? Yeah. See? Flex forehand. You can they are good enough for a flex forehand around objects. Try the Taco. Oh, that's too much flex. Yeah. Too much for the Taco. So they are, there's a fine line between its full torque resistance. You can definitely burn them over a little bit, but it doesn't really dump over. It just sort of took too long to recover. Whereas these have like no chance for that. So backhand, ace runs. Oh, just hung it just a touch wide. Oh, oh, ooh, dang it. Right height, little too stable. Maybe. Did I get it? I thought I was going in. I think that just went just in front of the cage. Too wide. Bang. Dang. Pretty good. Oh well. We got a pole hit and a metal hit, a couple of them. Not bad today. We'll just do hole 6 again. We'll just do a backhand flex this time. We kind of know now what the stabilities are like. I'll kind of run through you. The buzz is a neutral mid. This brand new one, ESP, sometimes you can find them that are a little bit more stable. My buddy has a Sparkle Z one that feels like a 0.2, almost even like some of these more stable ones. This one feels like almost like a 0.1, like fairly stable. Whereas my big Z beat in is actually starting to finally feel like the true neg 1.1 buzz, where it's got a little bit of turn and a little bit of fade. Very solid. I'll give these a little bit, just a touch of flex. A little bit nose up to try and control it, but it doesn't stall it too much. It's the ESP. Solid. Yeah, just a touch more stable. And then we kind of go into the next batch is probably the rocks. Obviously, the Rancher Rock is supposed to be like a 0.2, a little less stable. Champion, brand new Champion, maybe just a touch more stable. Big bead on it. Definitely seems to have a little bit of late stability, but not early stability. High speed or torque resistant. It's a little touchy on the forehand, but a very solid disc. I kind of grew out of love with rocks just because of how deep they are in the bead. Once I kind of got a hold of like the MVP stuff, hexes and mids feel much more comfortable. But if you love the rocks, these old USDGC Ranchos are pretty solid. I like the Halo, the KJ Halos from the last review a little bit better. But you can see it's just pretty straight. Could have gave that a little more height. And then we got the Roc3s. I mean, I'm pretty positive that this they're almost identical. The Inca is probably just another Roc3 mold, kind of similar. Emperor, Destroyer, they're pretty much come from the same line of molds. It might just be a slightly different specific mold. Here's the Halo Roc3. Solid. I can give it a little bit of ante. They will fight out. They have a nice, decent stability, especially backhand. They're just not very torque resistant, and they're not super overstable. You saw on like the Hyzers, they hold them well. There's the Inca. So you give them a little nose up, and they're going to fight a lot harder, but pretty solid. And next up is probably the this is the Kotuku. This is really solid. It's it's a little bit more thinner. I think it has a very micro bead. It's a little bit thinner, flatter on top than the rocks, and a little bit more consistently stable. It's a very solid. It feels like a true kind of 0.2 disc. And like I said, you can get a baseline. It gets pretty straight as they beat in. I don't know how well this plastic will hold up. So one thing about beaded mids is if the bead wears down, they kind of start to lose their stability. See, it's got that nice, just solid, consistent, and you can handle a little bit of forehand. And then we kind of move up into the next three, which is we got the silicone, the taco, and the Crux. Pretty similar. I think silicone is right up there with them in terms of stability. Super comfortable disc. Their plastic is great. Maybe the tiniest of micro beads, but not really a bead. More just kind of an overstable mid. Forehand's pretty well. I could have trusted it a lot more on that flex. Like I said, I had one in a different plastic and I loved it. And I accidentally like was messing around with forehands and just torqued it over into some water thinking I was really safe. So you do have to be careful with them, but pretty overstable. Like I can give this pretty good angle. And see, it fights out immediately, but very pushy, comfortable. Similar hand feel as that Kotuku, maybe just a tiny bit more stable and pretty close to the stability of these guys. Whereas these guys kind of shocked me, probably really close to that kind of 0.3 type, maybe 2.5, 3-ish, depending on how you throw them, but pretty versatile in that, like, even though, yes, they are bead, it's a micro bead, they are pretty shallow and not overly domey. So they are pretty comfortable to forehand. So I think, like I said, I'm pretty sure these are probably based on the balance. These were probably, I imagine, like single mold versions of the balance. So far, I can't really tell. They're about the same weight. I think this taco might be just a tiny bit more stable. And I did, even though I think these are the same disc, one of them has weight stamp, one of them has weight embossing. So they did come different runs from the factory. So I should note that. But I mean, hand feel, flight, and look are pretty much identical. Here's the taco. Yeah, and see, they have like a very kind of skippy finish. Not quite as skippy as like a pyro or something, but they are just a touch less than like a pyro, which is honestly about perfect for mid-range. Like these might end up going to my bag next year. Right now, as in the cold, I've been running that Cast Blast Nord because K1 is so good in cold. Yeah, almost the same flight. That was just a touch inside. They're really stable, but I think they're just a bit glidier and a little bit more straight pushing than like the Runway or Pyro. The Runways are pretty close to the Pyros, most of them. I had a Cosmic Neutron one that was super beef. This one's got just a tiny bit of push. It feels like it might be a little bit lighter. The sticker fell off, but still very, very overstable and probably the most comfortable to forehand. But see, it's not so mega beef that like, that angle was pretty harsh. It needed a little more airtime. But it's not mega beef. Like it doesn't feel like even like my most stable pyro. That one feels just a touch straighter. It's still pretty overstable.